And I don't have a television. You know, I say that to people, and I think you advertise that today. I don't have a TV because I wouldn't get anything done. You know, and I would have all those voices. Hey, it's Tony. Hi, Tony. Um, I had to get rid of it, and I'm glad I did. Uh, yeah.
Well, going from right there, then, I know a lot of the people who are here tonight are creatives, artists of many varieties and all. And I know that my favorite thing in Monsters is such a unique sort of graphic novel, such a unique presentation and such. And so I know that many of them, yes, are interested just in the process you went through of creating that. Could you speak a little bit about what that process
Sure.
was like?
Yeah, I'm everybody. I mean, you dream at night, and you're everybody in your dream, aren't you? I mean, you have produced that dream, and you're all the characters. You're, the spigot that is flowing with green water. You're, the kangaroo. You're the clown. You're everything that was in the dream, right? And writing is no different. It's just it's committing to everything and allowing it to speak as much as possible, and finding ways to say things that are born out of a commitment to characters, to people, because ultimately books are about people, you know. And I just really remain committed to the dream. I had a dream. I think I've talked about this before, of Karen. I didn't know it was Karen at the time. I didn't know it was Franklin. But I saw this incredibly beautiful trans Frankenstein character open her coat and let this little lesbian werewolf girl shield there from a horrible thing, something horrible, something that was so sad and difficult. And when I saw this thing, I was moved. I was incredibly moved at these two people. They were standing near these tulips in the dream, and the tulips were just all destroyed by the rain. And I remember they were looking at the tulips, and that was the ending of the short story. That was what inspired the book, because I just had to figure out who they were. I had to go into their world and understand them. And the book is really that. And of course, a lot of the things that happened to Karen happened to me. And the place that Karen is growing up is the place I grew up in part. And the people that Karen knows are people I knew. But it's not my story exactly. It's a little, it's different. And that difference is so freeing. I don't know who here writes. I have so many people to look at. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. Definitely. I'm looking at all of you. Oh, okay. Do you find it freeing? I'm trying to go and see everybody. Do you find it freeing when you can fictionalize your life? Is it freeing for you? Does it help you? Because it helped me to be able to talk about things that were very difficult. Fiction gave me a space, because by the time I was 6 years old, I'd seen numerous dead bodies. I think the first one I saw was, I came home from school in kindergarten, and I lived in a high-rise building, and somebody had jumped out of it, and they had inadequately covered the body. And there it was. It was like I had never seen anything quite like that. I mean, the body was so morphed from the impact of 21 stories. And that was shocking, to be 6 years old and to see that was difficult. There were other deaths after that followed that. I didn't put any of that in the book because it would have been too heavy. So when people say, oh, this world is so dark in uptown Chicago, I was like, man, we couldn't go next to the windows in the building I lived in, because you would get shot for sure if you presented a profile, because there were gunshots going all night where I lived. And that's how uptown was. And people died pretty regularly. So Yeah, I think about that. I think I wanted to take that trauma, because there's so many people who grow up with not just that kind of trauma, so many. The world is trauma, you know, that's what it gives us. How do you deal with that? How do you survive it? I wanted to create a metaphor for the way that we survive even the worst things, you know?
Yeah, that definitely works. Thank you for all that there. Um, I know, again, you know, there's being some artists in our group here tonight. And I know, even just having made my own attempts at comic books and stuff in the past, the artist process always intrigues me here. And so I'm just wondering about like the original artwork and stuff too in this book. Um, like things like, well, how did you settle on going with that ballpoint pen? You know, and someone did ask specifically, you know, why was the ballpoint pen the right tool for this book? And honestly, like, how big were the pages that you were working on here? Like, you know, give us some logistics of how you worked on this book.
Well, I have, I can show you, here, I'll be right back.
Troy, I just want to say you're doing a really good job, by the way.
Thank you, Joni.
Thank you.
Definitely. Yep.
Thank you for hosting this. What led to you creating this and hosting it?
Yeah, well, you know, I follow Emil there on Twitter, and me and Don are always talking about, you know, what should our next topics be for the comic book panel Zoom. And it just seemed like an awesome idea. You know, I'd heard so much about the book always. I'd read a lot about it. I was like, God, well, she's just in Chicago. Let's see if she wants to Zoom with us. That could be awesome.
Well,
And, you know, yay for Twitter.
yay, that's right. Well, I didn't find what I was looking for, but I will tell you, I found the other day a sheet that was actually on notebook paper that I had drawn, and it was one of the first drawings I did for the book. And I very quickly realized that if you draw on notebook paper, you're doomed. That all of the lines, the blue lines, would make it so that you could never correct anything. So I went away from that process and I started drawing. I have a sick clown drawing here, I think. I have a sick clown, horrific. You know, so this is, you know, some of the drawings are big. Some of the drawings are small. I'm trying to find more for you guys. Yeah, they're all different.
We're getting such a neat peek at the studio, Emil. This is
and I collage them into the page sometimes. Sometimes I do the whole page.
Okay.
I don't know. It just kind of depends on what the page calls for. And I'm, you know, I don't know how many Virgos are out there. Oh yeah, hi Virgos. Oh, Virgos. We understand each other. Nothing is ever good enough. It's never right. It will take for it. You just have to, eventually you have to break your heart and settle for what you've done. So that's pretty much me. And that's why, you know, collaging these images in, because then, you know, Dees looks like a clown and I can take him out and I can, you know, put in a better Dees. Yeah, it was a process of figuring out my process, because my process, those little squares that we're all in right now, the little squares of comics I couldn't do it. I really resented them. I wanted to break out of them so badly. And I mean, there still are some in the book, but I wanted there to be more expansive places for you to spend your visual time with the characters. I didn't want them to be confined by these boxes. I wanted that not to be. Yeah, I was in rebellion against those guys.
And so does that sort of speak to the choice for the ballpoint pen as well? Like you wanting things.
I got ballpoint pens. This is like my, you know, let's see, Emilio Zapata, you know, that thing where he's got it slung across his thing like this. This is, you know, these are my bullets, you know what I mean? And some of them are missing because I'm in the process of drawing. But I've got like dozens of these, you know, where I've got all different kinds of pens. I'm insane, because it's like sometimes when a pen is just starting to lose its ink, when it's dying, it makes this really beautiful line. So I have a certain number of pens that are just about to die, and I'll use them on the facial features of characters because they're very faint. I mean, it's a little bit of insanity. Yeah.
Well, with this many years of, you know, the ballpoint experience, I mean, yeah, you must know these things inside and out. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anybody on the planet who knows ballpoint pens as well as you do now. Heck.
We're married. Yeah, me and actually Bic, I met Bic. I didn't realize it was a French company. And the Bic people were very, very nice to me. They put out a commemorative Anka pen for a while.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I know. It was one of the, it was only in France. And it was like one of those that have 4 inks in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it had Anka's face on it. And I wanted them to like mass market them, but they didn't. You know, they just had some. And yeah, they collected my work. They have a Bic Art Museum, and they put it there, which I thought was just, it was wild.
That's
you know.
totally wild.
Yeah, it was totally cool.
From an art production standpoint too, on the regular story pages, what was this, like computerized lettering, or was this hand lettering? How are those pages?
Oh no, it was all hand.
Really?
Insanely, it was all hand. Yeah.
Like on the same artwork page.
Sometimes. And then what I learned as I progressed was that if I ever wanted to translate this work, I needed to have a separate layer for the language, for the text. And that came in so handy. That little change was fabulous because, you know, there are now 9 languages, but I think Turkey and Russia bought it, but they never made a book. And I'm not really surprised because I think culturally there may be issues there with Karen's orientation. So I'm kind of looking forward to the day that there are no issues and they make the book and they bring it out, you know.
Yeah. So I would have to imagine, you know, when we think about normal comic books and stuff, we're talking like 22 pages a month or so here. We're looking at my favorite thing, and it's hundreds of pages. And I know that, you know, every artist, you know, goes through an evolution and everything here. So I got to wonder, like, what was the evolution of your art style, even from the beginning of working on it to the end? Because it had to change in some way over that many pages, those many years. How do you think your art has changed?
I don't know that. I mean, I got my hand wasn't working really well. It took me a lot more work to make a drawing. When I started, my hand has improved in some ways. When I started, I wasn't really sure how long the book would be based on whether my hand would keep working. So it does work. It holds the pen. It's not as, I can do a little exercise to show you. You know, I was a sculptor. I was a sculptor. This is my non-dominant hand, and this is an exercise I did to keep myself fluid. And this is, after the paralysis, this is what's left of my ability. I can no longer do that. So you can see the difference. This hand used to be this great. And I lost that. So I have to work with what I've got. And it's worked out okay. You know, I'm like, pretty okay. People liked it. I was amazed and happy. Yeah, it's been good.
Okay.
But I do get tired. You know, this hand is a little club-like. It doesn't respond as much as I wish it would. You know, it's not as fluid. So, yeah.
Thank you. Again, in like the lead up to our conversation here, you know, I see your tweets and everything, and I've read a couple interviews, listened to a couple interviews, and one of the things that is I find so remarkable is just, you know, your sort of glowing positivity as a spirit. You know, when I think about you know, you having gone.
That's nice of you to say, right?
Well, you know, I look at it and okay, this person came through, you know, scoliosis when they were young. Then you fought through the West Nile virus, which was devastating. I could see how experiences like that could have completely, you know, left somebody a shell of themselves of sorts, and they would just trudge forward, if at all. But you keep coming through these things. You keep going. You keep your chin up, and I kind of wonder, like, what has given you that strength of perseverance? Who taught you to be such an amazing optimist and all? How did you find that will to go through these difficulties?
Well, I think I failed just a whole lot that you don't know about. I mean, I failed and failed and failed and failed and failed and failed at so many things and so often, and even at being a human being in the most extreme sense. I think I've failed in a lot of ways. But I keep getting up every day, and I keep doing that day, the next day that's given to me. And I don't know if there's anything else you can ask from a human being. I know I'm going to fail somehow tomorrow. I know I will, you know. I need a lot of forgiveness as a human being because I'm highly imperfect. I'm all the monster, and like us, all of us, you know. That's part of what I object to. Is this idea of sanctifying anybody or monsterifying anybody, totally creating an unforgivable being. And I think Ernest Hemingway said something to the effect that writers are not to be judges, but to understand their characters and to love them despite whatever they are. And I need that, you know, I need that as a human being. I'm in that game, in that, I don't mean it in a pejorative sense. I'm in that work of trying to find out what goodness is. What is goodness, you know? What is true? What heals people? What is valuable? It always comes down to the fact not what is valuable. It's always who is valuable. We are valuable. People are valuable. Hearts are valuable, you know?
Yeah. That's pretty good. Thank you, Emil.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it took me 50 million years to learn that, right? Lots of mistakes and lots of things to regret. Yeah, but you know, nonetheless,
Well, I
always
think
getting up.
and anyone who understands that they're imperfect probably is better able to understand that nobody else is perfect either, and that obviously makes their heart a pretty special place. So that's pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, there are no villains. The truth is, there really aren't villains. There are no there are no monsters. There are only monsters. I like to say that, you know.
Now, sort of going along this thread then a bit here again, in listening to some of the other interviews I've heard with you and stuff, it's obvious that I would say are a deeply sort of spiritual person, but maybe not of any sort of, you know, but a very, you know, Emil denomination, you know, with a sense of magic and of monsters and spirits and spells within the world. And I wonder, could you speak about that at all? About, you know, what is your sort of spiritual view of the world? Because it sounds pretty interesting to me.
Well, I believe we're all magicians. I believe that every human being alive is a magician.
Okay. What does that mean, a magician?
We can imagine something and then create it. We can speak, I can tell you a story and you can imagine it, and that becomes real because you imagine it. We are magic. We are magic. We are incredibly powerful. That's the truth about human beings, is that we are, you know, I love stuff about aliens. Like, I listen to stuff about aliens all the time. It's one of the things I get into, because I just think the truth about us, if there is another group of beings out there, they admire and envy us. And we don't understand that. We think we're the lesser creatures, but we're only under a blanket of disinformation about our true natures as magicians. It's like we're all Harry Potter. You know, we're all under the stairs. not realizing that we're with this kind of the Muggle family is the society, you know, and we're all actually secretly belonging at Hogwarts because we're all actually secretly that powerful. And it's our imagination that allows us to create. I mean, everything that exists in this world was created by a human being. I mean, I'm not talking about nature, but I'm talking about everything. I mean, this means by which we talk to each other. This was all first an idea in the mind of a person, and then it became a reality because it was projected, it was manifested into the world. We are capable of doing literally anything. And I actually, this is going to be crazy, especially if I die in a couple of weeks, okay? But I actually, and God forbid, right? But, you know, it's a pandemic, you know. So what if we can live as long as we want to, but we decide because we have we welcome an idea about how long we live, and that changes actually the expanse of our life. What if what we believe is that powerful that we don't understand it? We don't understand the power of our belief. That's the thing that I think we don't realize, is that we are all connected. I mean, they've done studies where they've been able to prove that people can tell when they're being watched. What does that mean? That means that we're all connected. And we are. I think that we are, and you are, if you're listening to me right now, the depth of your power, your Harry Potter power, is greater than you know. That's the most exciting thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And it's also an enormous responsibility. I believe if you curse somebody in your heart, you can actually damage them. I know, maybe that sounds crazy to you.
You know,
Or maybe you better watch it, because maybe what you're doing with your heart is actually capable of changing the material world. We know plants grow really well in environments where people have positive thoughts. You know, they've hooked things up to plants, and plants scream when we think about injuring them, right? Because we're connected to the natural world in a way we don't understand. There's another thing I believe that's probably going to seem like it's crazy, but everybody here, we all did something in a past life, and now we're doing this. I mean, what it was, maybe we were all in the forum together, in the Roman Forum. Maybe we were all cleaning out a outhouse in medieval, you know, Czechoslovakia. I don't know what we did in the past, all of us, but I believe that every life is a cycle, and that every life you reconnect with people you knew in a past life. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of proof for that too. I won't go into all of it, but there are a lot of children that come back and say, this is who I was in a past life, and it's been researched, and in fact, they've given the name of who they were, and it's been followed. So I think all that's real, and it's scary as hell, isn't it? If it's true, because it means that you could forget, like who you could be born into another life and forget this one, but this means that anybody can tell a story. And this means that there's no black, there's no white, there's no gay, there's no straight. I mean, yes, in this lifetime, but in the larger expanse of time, it means you could have been anything. And I like to take my rights with that. I like to say I have the right to write about what it is to be a rock or a tree or a person living in medieval Czechoslovakia. You know, I want to take my rights. I want to be connected in my imagination to those things. Yeah, because Jim Carrey said something I really liked. He said, I used to believe I was a man experiencing the universe, but now I realize that I'm the universe experiencing a man. And I know that sounds heady, but it's the truth.
Oh yeah, I can definitely understand that there, and thank you for that all that answer there. That's very, very interesting, and yeah, again, some great thoughts there that I do think we all can sort of well chew on for a while, for darn sure. one of the things that you mentioned that I do like a lot was you mentioned the idea that, well, yes, it all is about creation, all about imagination and all these various things that, like how we're communicating right now, first started out as somebody's idea. And now I know that you said you don't have a TV yourself because, it keeps you from getting stuff done. But I did want to comment that in listening to one of the other interviews with you, you mentioned how much you did enjoy the movie Magnolia. And goddamn, I did love that movie too. Fantastic movie. So that interview of yours with Amy Mann and that fella named Ben was very interesting.
Ted Leo.
Okay, there we go. Thank you.
He's an amazing musician. So
Wow.
is she, yeah, of course.
Very cool. So I was wondering if, sort of along that line, and answering one of the questions that we've heard so far too, are there other examples of media that you do appreciate and would heartily say, oh yes, go watch this or go listen to this? Are there other movies or musics that you're particularly a fan of?
Yeah, I'm totally a fan of, I mean, I binge watch like everybody, right? Don't you binge watch on occasion? Yeah, I do it. I mean, I'm drawing while I do it. So a lot of times I look up after 3 episodes and go, I didn't realize this person was a redhead, because I'm not watching it. And that's funny, kind of, but yeah. And I listen to audiobooks. I listen to audiobooks all day, and I listen to podcasts about ghost stories because I love ghosts so much. I had a ghost experience. I'm not really supposed to tell you about it because it's becoming something more than an experience. But I went to stay at this place. It was a old Victorian church in Canada, and I was invited to stay there and produce some art. And when I got there, the woman who interviewed me said, "We didn't know how long you'd be here because the woman before you left crying in the middle of the night." And said she would never come back. And I said to myself, well, yeah, I know what that is because I'm dealing with this entity who did some amazing things in the space. Yeah, I mean, really amazing experience. It was a real full-on ghost experience. And I was there for 30 days. I did 30 days of living in a haunted place. And it was completely isolated. It was over Christmas holiday, so nobody was there but me. And it was pretty fantastic and terrifying. I mean, it was absolutely terrifying. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's going to be something for you all to have in the future. The experience. I'm actually, yeah. Yeah, it's on its way to you. Yeah.
Well then, can I come to you now then with some of the questions that people have been typing into the chat?
Sure.
Regarding, again, my favorite thing, someone did ask, did you plan out like the arc of the story at all? Like because it is very complicated and very detailed. So did you have an outline and storyboard it, or did you just sort of start at one point and see where the hell it led you? Did you format that?
I didn't. No, and there were times when I had real anxiety because I didn't know how things were going to happen, but it was really exciting also too to not know and to find it.
Okay.
To find out what would happen, because sometimes I would make false starts too. Like I would make a false start with Karen and she would be like, no, I would never do this. I don't know why you're having me do this, but I would never do this. So stop it. And I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I just got to scrap that 25 pages. And 25 pages is a lot when you've drawn and written it. It's like, it's a load. Okay. And it's so irritating that I'd have to let it go. I tell this story and it's absolutely true. So I did not know some really big things. I didn't know. And I was in Angoulême in a hotel room, and Karen actually said, well, this is what happened. And it came like a download almost. and it was enormous. It was this enormous piece of information. And I broke into tears because it broke my soul. It was what is at the very center of this whole book. And you don't know it yet because it's only been implied. And the revelation of it was like, I had to leave then and go on a stage in France, and I had the flu, and I was like, I hadn't washed even. I was like, my hair was like a giant rat's nest, and I was so sick. And I was like crying inside because I had this revelation. It was like the most inopportune time for her to do this too. She's kind of like an actual kid because, you know, she will tell you things when you're supposed to go in front of the entire country of France. It's just not good timing. But yeah, I don't know a lot of things, and I allow them to be revealed to me. Sometimes I have a sense, in a smaller moment, I understand, like, when you're writing something, I understand that there's going to be a beat, and I understand that this beat is going to end on this emotional note. And some of you, I think, I'm going to look here. Who's Naomi? You're nodding very like knowingly. Yeah, it's sometimes I get that. Sometimes I have that. But no, the excitement is not knowing. It's walking the tightrope, right? I mean, how many people walk the tightrope versus, put it into a very structured format? How many of you have tried walking a tightrope with a story where you don't know where you're going to find it? I'm just curious. Chloe, Steve, Otto, Javier, Karen, Lucas, Robert, Tony, okay, and probably the other grouping of people. Let's see, other people. Anybody else? Okay. Oh, okay. Scott, J. Scott. All right. Yeah. So some of you will, and Jihan. Do I say your name correctly? Is it Jihan? Okay. Yeah, some of you do that. I think it's great. What do you think? Yes, it was good experience. No, worst thing ever. Javier, no. Okay. Chloe, I don't hear you.
I just feel like I don't have a choice. Like, it's just how my brain works. And I get kind of envious of people that can plan, but it's, not my process.
I understand that. Sometimes you don't have a choice. Oh my gosh, Naomi, I saw a lovely person just intersect with me for just a moment there. Oh, that was so cute. Who is that?
You're on mute, Naomi.
Oh, that's my son, Parker.
Parker. Hi, Parker. Hey, Parker.
He's been listening in the background and playing games.
Oh, you're so cool. What do you do, Parker? What's your thing?
Video games and stuff.
Cool. I like video games. I'm old though. I mean, when I played games, it was pinball. That's how old I am. So, yeah.
I love pinball.
Oh, see, there you go. Parker, you may have to, just for your mom's sake, you may have to play some pinball at some point. Yeah. Aw, oh, that's so dear.